two new studies show how money impacts move-in decisions among couples. A new Zillow study shows that single renters, meaning renters who are solely responsible for housing costs, pay what amounts to a singles tax of nearly $7,000 a year. You may or may not know this, folks. And that's just the national average. In pricier metros, not Louisville, the amount can be as high as $19,500. Or put it another way, cohabitating renters can save a collective $14,000 a year or more just by living together. Now, there's more to this. Another study conducted by Realtor.com and Harris X shows how high housing costs have some couples deciding to cohabitate before they're ready. With so many Americans struggling to pay the bills and save money, it is not surprising more of them are splitting the rent. And who better to do that with than someone that you might actually want to marry down the road? So, Brent, here's the question. What agreements should couples have in place before moving in together for protection of property? And if they buy a home together, what documents should they have their attorney or you or Lee draw up in an attempt to protect them when they move in together? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Bob, thanks for having me on here this morning, and I appreciate the opportunity to fill in for Lee. Um, this is a situation that comes up fairly frequently in my line of work, where it's not uncommon, obviously, these days for people that are not married to cohabitate or to even buy a home together. And when they do that, it presents a host of questions that are not always the most comfortable things to talk about necessarily, right? You've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and you decide that, okay, we're going to buy a home together. The first thing I'm curious about is, are both parties bringing money to the table for the down payment, or is it one-sided? And those are just things to think about if you're in that position. Because from our perspective, when we do a closing, typically when there's two people that are going on title together, the sort of default presumption is that those people want to be what we call joint tenants with survivorship. Okay, and I'll try not to get too into
don't go down there. Right,
the legal things,
right.
but typically, if it's a couple, they're joint tenants with survivorship, which means that if one of them passes away, the other person owns the house. No question asked. It doesn't have to go to probate. It doesn't have to go to in front of a judge. If one person dies, the other person just owns the property. As the listeners can probably foresee, that's a little bit of a bigger decision to make when this person is someone that you're not married to. Maybe you're just in a relationship with them. And so I always encourage people to think about the consequences of that down the road. Obviously, everybody that's in a relationship wants to have the best hopes, and they think that relationship's going to last forever, and that they're going to be with that person forever. And we all hope that, but it doesn't always work out that way, obviously, in reality. So one of the things I always talk to people about when they ask me this question is, really think about, do you want to own a property in survivorship with this person, or would it make more sense for you to own it as what we call tenants in common, which is where each person has an equal 50% interest in the property, and then if forbid something happens to one of those folks and they pass away, their 50% would then go to their heirs and not to the surviving person in the relationship. So that's the biggest thing, is deciding how those people should hold title to the property.
And let's back up with regards, if they're just living together, cohabitating in a rental property, is there an agreement that they should have that protects them against taking someone else's property in the event that the relationship dissolves?
Yeah, I think in those scenarios, it's not a bad idea to have some kind of written agreement, between the parties that just clarifies, a whole host. All the way from, how is the rent being split? Who is it, 50-50? Is it 70-30? How do we agree that we're paying the rent? And then on top of that, Is there renter's insurance? And if so, who again, how is that being paid for? And is that renter's insurance going to cover, both everyone's belongings that are in the apartment, or is it just for the person that's paying for the policy? That's something to think about. And then I also think that this might be a little bit overboard. It maybe doesn't happen that often in practice, but it's not a bad idea to maybe just have a written agreement that makes it very clear that, each person is bringing their own personal property, into this house or apartment, whatever it may be,
Yep.
and just making clear that upon the event that somebody moves out of the property, you know, each is entitled to what they brought with them, essentially, right? Nobody, you don't get
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
confiscate your partner's belongings if you break up and they move out. And that can all, we can draw up agreements to that effect, and everybody can sign something. And I think it's just good peace of mind to have.
I think there's one more thing I think that might be important in a piece of paper or something that both parties sign, that in the event a relationship falls apart, then whoever is leaving, or there's an agreement who leaves within a specific period of time, so that the party that's uh, leaving or having a problem doesn't stay there indefinitely.
Mhm.
That makes
Yeah.
sense? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
that's a great point. Yeah, and I've had people come to me after the fact. They're in that situation and they don't have any kind of document or agreement that they made prior,
Mhm.
and so they come to us, and we kind of end up playing mediator a little bit, in terms of just trying to get everybody comfortable with, how many days do you have to move out, and when are
Sure.
you going to come pick up all your things, and all that good stuff. So it's definitely better to have a plan ahead of time than to be reacting after the fact.
Put it in writing.